Okay, I'm Emmanuel Moirand. I'm the moderator of this panel. I will introduce quickly myself. I'm in the blockchain ecosystem since 10 years. We work on blockchain application for insurance and banks in 8 countries in Europe. And I'm a Metaverse specialist. Since 2 years, we're creating NFT. We're creating Metaverse inside the French association name is France Meta. We are more 1,300 people inside to promote Metaverse and a special idea of Metaverse, open-minded, interoperable, and happy to help the climate. I have lots of good speakers today. I will have them to present themselves. We begin by Alexandra.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm Alexandra. I'm based in Paris. And we travel a lot for this business that we are all here in. I'm an early blockchain. I started with investing in crypto in 2016, moving to a blockchain and start NFTs in 2017, what I couldn't understand and I couldn't believe. And now I see it's just exactly why they explained to me, and it's growing. And we are here, we have co-organized this event today. I'm very happy to have everyone here. Thank you.
Primavera.
Hi, I'm Primavera. I'm a researcher at CNRS and at Harvard. And my research is about the legal and governance aspect of blockchain technology. Recently, I also have been jumping into this weird space of NFTs and Metaverse, and also trying to observe what are the new governance opportunities and legal challenges that raise from it.
LOïC.
Hi everyone, I'm LOïC. I'm the founder of Paris Singularity, which is a media about deep tech for good technology, which explores the societal impacts of the disruptive technologies. And I'm a consultant as well, transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3. I'm very happy to be with you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is TIAGO SCAFF. I'm Brazilian. I am the CEO and founder of Experience. Experience is an edtech specialized in augmented reality. So basically we develop 3D interactive content, like 3D content for students and teachers. At this moment we are more focused in the K6 to K12 and also in the disciplines more related to natural science like chemistry, physics and biology. It's a big pleasure to exchange with you today.
Thanks. First question. We all know that the social architecture of Metaverse is still ahead of us. Could we design this choice to impact the future of Metaverse? Who want to begin to answer?
I think
Alexandra?
it's going to first be a financial space to exchange cryptocurrencies. There is a huge market today. So it's going to be a place that people are going to be able to trade, to buy, to sell. So it starts with this financial aspect. And I really believe it's going to be evolving to very deep VR experiences. We're not yet there, but we're building this system to reach this VR immersion experience we would have. And most important, we're creating a huge blockchain community all over the world. And I think we're going to explore this subject too, that the importance of using clean energy source to build all this future business we're starting to build since a few years.
Okay, and you want to...
I can add something. Yeah, I think the social impact of the metaverse, first of all, depends on what do we mean by the metaverse. I think there is all the question of Web3 technologies and the possibility that is quite new with regard to the way in which we've been interacting with online platform until now, which is the possibility to actually claim some kind of actual ownership over the assets that we are interacting with, which I think is revolutionary in 2 potential ways. One is that we are no longer subject to the whims of the online operators that today control most of the data and most of the content and most of the resources. And as we move into the metaverse, it's even more important that if we start having like digital assets, that we can actually claim some kind of ownership over those assets. And so in terms of social impact, I think these at least provide better ownership over those content and digital resources that we're interacting with. And then another type of social impact which it has is, of course, also there is this trend towards some hyper commodification of the metaverse, where all of a sudden all resources, because now you can own them, that also means that now they become a commodity, and therefore they can be traded, and therefore we can create like a market around it. And so to some extent, there is the Web3 technology, which provides this huge opportunity because it can help us liberate ourselves from the hegemony and the control of large online platform, but also creating this market economy around every single piece of content, which also has another type of social impact.
I would like to add something, take a step back. I think we're in a far better position compared to 5 years ago to build a metaverse for good, for two reasons. There is this constant pressure, even by former actors of the Web2 economy, to transform system the GAFA would like to use to build the metaverse. You know, we all know that the system, they are made to maximize the user engagement and to monitor user engagement. We all know that these systems, they enhance misinformation, controversy, and even extremism. But the good news is, since 2016 and the Cambridge Analytica scandal, these GAFA, they have been under increased regulatory control. So today there are several lawsuits from the Department of Justice, from the Federal Trade Commission, and even by states. In China, the situation is not very good for the national tech champion for other reasons. And in Europe, we've got all this kind of regulation. The second reason is compared to 5 years ago, I would say that the global warming awareness has reached a critical point. It finally appears as an immediate urgency. But there are several people, when I was preparing this conversation, telling me, oh, you know, the metaverse is useless. It's a waste of time, a waste of resources, of brain power, of money. My answer is always the same. You know, the metaverse to me, it's just a tool. It's a tool designed by humans, for humans, aiming at objectives that humans will choose. So let's build good for the planet metaverse if we are living a don't look up moment, you know, this movie from Netflix. So we do need some powerful massive collaboration tools. And I would say that the metaverse could be one of these tools. We could imagine that the metaverse and the new economic models will promote virtuous behaviors for the planet. And I will add, finally, that I do think we need new imaginaries of the future, of dream life, which looks like more than, you know, the Navy in Avatar, rather than our life today.
I like this idea of metaverse is a good tool for the planet. Because inside the association, we launched with a collective in France, Go for Metaverse, an initiative on June. The name is Metaverse for Amazonia. And we do this metaverse with the Amazonian chief. Name is Hamil. And this guy is very clever because he put all his ground in Google Earth 10 years ago to protect it from the deforestation. And we built this metaverse with one idea. He wants to reforest his place, and due to that, we will create NFT to rebuild trees in his place, you know. And it's an example that metaverse is a tool for the planet. And what do you think, Thiago, about the new consortium which have been born for the metaverse to the consortium 2 weeks ago? Do you think it's a good idea to build a smart metaverse?
It's a trick question. Well, I didn't see some big companies there, and in the same way, we are discussing here about social and about the moment we are living, about metaverse, how to properly develop this architecture. So I think we need to be very attend to discussions related to the social impacts we can have in a consortium where you just have big companies, as I could see there. I think we need to mix a bit more, because if the discussion here is about social, I think, well, I'm from Brazil, as I said. In Brazil, we have many problems of social inequality. So thinking about Metaverse, I think it's a tremendous tool to reduce the inequality, but to reach it, we really need to propose the right access to the people. So if we start creating something in Metaverse that's only for some people, it's wrong. So that's the point. I think we need to really start now. It's a very important moment for Metaverse development, so we should do it right from the beginning. So that's my point. We need to add some other actors that could see a bit more for social subjects, that the impacts of the implementation of Metaverse in our society.
It means Metaverse for all. What is your opinion, Alexandra?
It's still a very exclusive world, because you have to have first energy access, internet access, a smartphone or iPad. So it's still a very small portion of the planet. That is why we see a big traction in South Asia and Asia, because everyone has access to that. And this is like a political from their governments, China, even India. But when you go to sub-Saharan Africa or even Latin America, I'm half Brazilian too, and just spent some time in South Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. Nobody has access to energy, and almost nobody has access to a smartphone. So we're still talking about a very microcosmos of this planet. But I come to summits like this since many years, and I remember in 2015, 16, the early years, we were only with the CFOs and CEOs, and the really point was how to bank the unbankables. How to really, we're talking about decentralized finance, and here we're talking about Metaverse is going to use decentralized finance without the digital currencies. But the idea here is how to help somebody in Africa today who's paying 10% to wire money through the to a SMS message to Orange, which is a French company. So I want this technology, which is a decentralized, a crypto, and the blockchain, to first achieve the basic step that we include the people who are excluded of the financial system. And I see extraordinary potential in the sub-Saharan countries, in Latin American countries, but I don't see companies moving there. I see a lot of companies just moving there for profit, but that is not the reason we want to move there. We want to in the long term. You take Nigeria, for example, 50% of the population is below 27 years old. So there's a lot of very young people, and they want to be part of this world. We're talking here in Paris, which is one of the most expensive and richest cities of Europe, but I want this technology to be touching the other people. In Brazil, for example, it's going to be hard because we need to educate people. Africans are much more educated into tech than Brazilians, for example. And when we want to find developers in South America, we can mainly find them in Argentina for building communities to do, a more communitary blockchain. So I think we have the governments, they have to watch technology. They have to help the schools to have the tools, and we have to help the little communities to have a little bit of electricity and internet just to start with. Because otherwise we're going to do, for the rich to the richest, and this is not the goal of a decentralized finance.
I have an example we did last month. It was in Peru. It was an NFT of potatoes. We created, there is 6,000 species of potatoes in Peru. No one knows that, but you can buy an NFT of potatoes. You receive the plant to farm, and the money is giving to the farmers immediately. It's one of the answers that we can try to develop together.
Yeah, maybe I can add to this, maybe with a slightly different perspective, which is, I think, of course, not everyone has access to the metaverse, and currently the metaverse or the Web3 is quite operating around quite a speculative trend. And and to me, the question is like not necessarily or not only how do we onboard people into Web4, but actually how do we leverage the money that is currently circulating in the metaverse in order to dispatch it where it is the most needed, which in my view is the environment. And there is a lot of discussion about, well, but the metaverse is very consuming in energy, and how do we become like carbon neutral, etc. And I think there is also quite some interesting projects and initiatives to be observed, which are actually trying to use the potentiality of Web3 and Web4 in order to actually take all these financial flux and redirect it to environmentally conscious and like local people that are actually working on planting those trees or the potatoes. So I think we need to also not just see the metaverse as like something that just this infrastructure that consume, because it is, but it's also an infrastructure that can manage funds and can redirect funds. And we need to somehow be creative in how can we design specific protocols, specific mechanism designs, incentives, so that when I purchase a particular asset, a crypto asset or an NFT, something in the metaverse, how do I actually create an alignment with the physical world? And I think, for instance, in the metaverse, we have like millions of dollars that are going to purchase a little parcel of land, which is completely disconnected from the real world. And if only we could somehow connect the data and actually be such that the value of your land in the metaverse is inherently connected with the biodiversity or with the vitality of land in the physical world, then when I'm purchasing this land, I become the steward of the real thing, and my economic interest, my speculative benefits are inherently associated with me making sure that no one is actually abusing or hampering the vitalities of this land. And all of a sudden we can create like a much interesting type of economy in which the value of digital land is actually just a representation of the value of our land in the real world, and creating this flux, this economic flux that actually go from the speculative dynamics from the metaverse straight into where lands actually need help.
But for that, I think we have to create some proof of work and proof of concept, because we've been looking into just protecting the Amazon, and it's extremely difficult. We even thought about creating a coin that would be issued to the exactly number of human beings, and everybody would feel concerned. But how you connect to the local people, it's extremely difficult, because you have to work with NGOs, and you don't 100% trust them. We're talking about huge spaces of land that had to be really protected. So you have education is the basic, and you have to really trust where the funds are going. So I think creating in small spaces, micro places, small areas, and to have this connection, you say, somehow an utility of the digital content that goes into the real, but we have to create this flex with the people we can trust. And it's very difficult to find NGOs that you can just back them up for the long term.
I understand it's very difficult. This is because it's very difficult that it needs to be done, and it needs to be done well. And I think just saying it's difficult doesn't necessarily justify not even try. There is actually quite some initiative. We are currently launching one with the Serpentine Galleries, actually, which is incentivizing artists to actually associate the value of their NFTs with specific natural resources, and then oracles that are taking the data about those natural resources and influencing the dynamics of those NFTs, right? And then, of course, it's a matter of like whoever is creating that NFT needs to identify, well, who do they trust as an NGO and who do they want to. It's kind of like doing an automatic donation every time the NFT is being sold, right? So there is a lot of experimentation to be done, and I think that the reason that it's very challenging today is because we have not done enough. So we need to clearly start somewhere, and I think there is already in the space quite some projects that are going in this direction.
Yeah, someone says nothing is impossible. LOIC, do you think we have a digital responsibility about that?
Actually, I was thinking about answering your last question about the Metaverse consortium, because I think it's a key question. I would say that contrary to the Web one, the Metaverse will not be developed by by public institution, by literary research labs or whatever. It will be about private companies. So my point is, this consortium is not a game changer to me. It's a first positive step, but it is not a game changer at all. We have this story back in 2015, and the process was a bit of failure about the Internet of Things. At this time, there were several companies struggling to be the standards of Internet of Things, and they decided to create a consortium and collaborate, but they only collaborate. In reality, there were 6 vendors. I guess there was IBM and Samsung, and sorry, I forgot the others. And they control the outcome. In fact, at the end, they established multiple alliances, multiple shared technology agreement, but there was nothing about a global standard. So the question I'm wondering right now, and I share with you, is why the Metaverse would be would function in another way than the Internet of Things. This is a cool question for me, because we are in the easy part. You take people, you put them in a room, and you say, "Yo, let's standardize." Okay, that's cool. But when this private company will have to make sacrifices, to pick choices they wouldn't have made, or even to sub-optimize the performance, the story won't be the same. And this is sorry, I forgot what the next thing I wanted to tell. This was about, yeah, sorry, that was about what you told before, TIAGO. Apple has not signed up yet. And Apple and its proprietary ecosystem and control ecosystem and its 30% commission Apple charge developers has not signed up yet. And do you think that Apple is gonna sign up? I'm not sure about this, and gonna collaborate with its rivals and even with its legal enemies like Epic? I wonder, because this successful platform, they do anything they can, to lock in developers and users and to become the standard. They are able to make massive investment, even loss-making investment. So if we want the open standard to win the game, we have to offer greater profits to developers. I would say that the blockchain could offer greater profits to developers over time, but even in the blockchain world, there are multiple protocols which claim to be the interoperable protocol. So I think it has a positive side, but not a game changer today, not at all.
Yes, and my question was, do we have collectively a digital responsibility about Metaverse to be smart for the planet, or to be smart for people?
Yes.
It's a good answer. It's short.
I can do the same, yes.
No, absolutely. I think we had, well, we still are in the pandemic, but now we are in a better situation, for sure. But yeah, we could see many problems during this period, and I can talk a bit more about education because it's my field, and especially in the basic education, suddenly students need to move to online classes. And then we could see in the same time these people talking more about Metaverse and things like that. I'm not sure if we really enjoyed this opportunity to properly inform the people about the values of Metaverse and all the subjects related to it. So yeah, but in the same time, everybody is a bit lost about this. We are trying to understand the next steps of the thing, but it's fact that through Metaverse and thinking about social and etc., and talking about education, the value is huge in my point of view, because thinking about social inequality, we can, for instance, propose to students the opportunity to virtually experiment some things that they couldn't do in the real life. And talking about poor countries especially, we can see a big gap between students from private schools and public schools. And in the end, after the basic education, they need to fight for a position in a university and etc. So in this way, I think Metaverse can be really value to propose students a digital immersive experiences in plural. And then this, in my point of view, can reduce this gap about thinking about social inequality. Because, for instance, history class about the French Revolution, for public students in Brazil, that's totally different from public schools in France, because the quality here, as I know, is good, is very good. Most of students are in the public schools. In Brazil, the same, but the quality is really far from the private schools. So students from private schools, they came to Paris and to France to understand in person historic facts, go to the Louvre, and do many things here. And this is something that I can relate to the experience in Metaverse. Students from public schools, they can't come. They can't. But if they have the access to good content through Metaverse, the experience is very similar. This is something that we have already several research about this in education, about the positive impacts related to engagement and how to better fix the knowledge through Metaverse and VR and AR, so immersive tech. And this is something that I could live as an entrepreneur in Brazil, especially now I'm with some projects starting in France also, but in Brazil especially, I could see that the schools and the people, they were not aware about the value of this. I really tried this drug to explain, to show the benefits of this kind of technology. Instead of only propose classes on Zoom and Teams and things like that, students were really bored. It was like to try to only change the regular model of presential classes to virtual, and this is not enough to engage. So yeah, I could talk a lot about this.
Yeah, smart metaverse is with education, and my opinion is we need to educate everyone in the world about metaverse. And at the moment, there is not enough academy or university that speak about metaverse. And in France, we have lots of initiative. One is Metaverse College that is launched in October, and we'll be able to form lots of 1,000 students and people inside the company to what is metaverse, what will be the impact. And my opinion, we need to educate everyone to open the door of the metaverse.
Yeah, but we have some cultures. United States was a very fast adapter of the blockchain and of crypto. I remember 5 years ago, they already had summer camps for 9, 11 years old educating into blockchain. So it's a culture of a country. France, I'm half Italian too. In Italy, we're like in Brazil, we are very behind. We have to educate everybody from A to Z. France is doing a great job. But I'm a strong believer that we are one planet, one race, all human beings, and I really wanted like people who are in this business to do a manifesto. Going back to what Primavera said, we're creating a totally new financial system here. Why we have to repeat the same errors that we committed in the past? Greediness, social inequalities. Everybody in this room knows how social inequalities work. Every country has the same problems. So can we pitch the people and do a manifesto that everybody's going to identify 1%, 2% of their profit for social impact? You plant the seed in their brains, they say for you, yes. But at the end of the day, they don't do. So I think as a community, we should start planting the seed more and more and experiencing more and getting more social impact projects that are going to benefit for this little amount of money they're going to receive. There are some people into exchange, they do liquidity pools, And so they give a little bit of the profit of the liquidity pool for some social impacts. There's good people there, but most of the people who are building this business, they're extremely good. So why not put a manifesto together and make it's going to be a rule, you know? We must give X% for social impact. And it's going to accelerate the education point of view, the climate point of view, because there's too much money out there. You just have to distribute this money. And I think with the cryptocurrencies we are able to do, because it's
And inside the NFT system, when you create an NFT, when it's sold second time, you give a percentage to the creator. You can do it for smart education, yeah.
It's just a matter of putting your smart contract and just running.
It's easy to do. Just to conclude, each of you can make a few words about his opinion of the smart metaverse. Is it a reality or is it hard to do?
I do like what's just being said about the education, because I think this is something coming, but within maybe 10 years or even after. It reminds me about the first release of the iPad, and it was common this period to read newspaper, to watch YouTube videos of babies swiping books like iPads. And today these babies, they are teenagers, they are living in virtual worlds, they are constantly socializing, they are learning, they are collaborating. Within a few years, they will be adults, they will be business leaders, and within a few years, this virtual world, they will have grown, they will be easier to use. And I would say that their significance will be far more important. So I would bet that within a few years, the teenagers who became adults, they would prefer, buying a new avatar skin rather than buying a new Levi's pants they don't really need at all. And by the way, today there are already teenagers asking for Fortnite skins as birthday gift. It is something coming. This is not an utopia.
Yeah, and thank you, because it's a perfect introduction to what I wanted to say. I think that there is this, I think, interesting claim, which is controversial, but interesting perhaps because of its controversy, which is we obviously are in a society of hyperconsumption, and which is somehow impacting the environment. And what's the best way to cope with that? And one way is the notion of degrowth, reducing our consumption, and identifying other way of achieving some kind of prosperity that is not via economic growth. And of course, it's very difficult because we are all indoctrinated about hyperconsumption, and there are habits that are very difficult to change. And so the interesting question then is instead of trying to degrowth, can we actually grow in a different space? And can we redirect somehow the consumption practice that happen today in the physical world with all those plastic objects that we hardly need, with all our millions of different outfits that, because we need to show that we have a different outfits every day. Can we actually redirect this type of consumption partners into a space that actually has an infinity potential of resources, while of course also accounting for the fact that, well, what is the increased cost that this has in the environment, because there is all the maintenance of the metaverse. But I think it's an important question, is to which extent, in the same way as the internet has an infrastructural cost, but also reduce the cost of many things, including content production, content printing, and transportation. Can the metaverse actually enable us to have this infinite growth while consuming, but not consuming the natural resources? And to this, and I think with regard to what you were saying with this social inequality, I think there is something very another thing that needs to be accounted for, which is why today why are we actually making it hard to consume on the metaverse, in the sense that I found it always very fascinating that all the metaverse are like flat and limited in space. You need to buy your little parcel, which is a little square in a limited space, just because, of course, otherwise, if there was infinite space, you wouldn't pay for it. But then that means that we're creating virtual scarcity in a space that doesn't have scarcity, and all of a sudden not everybody can afford having a piece of land, and not everyone can afford having a little device or a little outfit. And so to some extent there is this weird utopian opportunity of having a space of infinite possibilities where we can actually have a world of abundance as long as we stay in the virtual world, and yet we cannot have it, because if we create abundance, then we eliminate the economy. And so all of a sudden this social inequality that exists in the physical world, we are recreating exactly the same because of the market dynamics also in the virtual world, instead of taking advantage of all these opportunities that the metaverse provide for actually providing digital experience for everyone.
Oh, they said everything for me.
I
have
like to
nothing
add-
relevant to add.
But I would like to add to Primavera that I really believe we're going to slow the consumption, because a lot of people who consume this hyper-consumption market we talk about is only people who can access wealth. So they are allowed to do it. They're going to buy much more in the digital than in the real world. And when it comes to plastic, I don't understand why European community didn't make a ban on plastic, because there's too much interest in oil and gas. Plastic comes from oil. So that it's just, the problem is the same, always the same problem. When they see profit, the business evolve. And we are facing today, 2022, most of the companies here, they're searching for profit. They just lost the beginning of the game. It was like, let's bank then bankable. Let's create an inclusive financial system. And most of the companies that we're going to meet today, they're going to talk about business development, investment, profits. So again, they are repeating the same cycle we did from centuries and centuries and centuries. We have to create a manifesto, a proposal, so they are allowed to go only for the profit side, because that is what they're doing today. They're not changing the planet. They're not working on social impact. They're still sourcing energy from not clean energy. If I could just make rules and regulations, I would not tax the NFTs or your profit in crypto. I would just oblige you to use green energy source as a government. So the regulators too, they only look into the financial aspect of it, which is coming to us in taxing. That is a regulation that they want to centralize to make you pay taxes, so they go into their accounts to keep paying for the system, and we're not giving back. None of the governments are giving back into the amount we need for social impact, education, and social projects into the desert areas, Amazon forests. Nothing is being done.
Maybe the
We have
Metaverse could
future,
be...
but we have to lead the future.
Maybe we need to make a smart Metaverse responsible. Okay, thank you very much for your help. And if you have any question, don't hesitate to take the micro.
Yeah, we've got time for like one or two questions. If anyone has a question for our panelists. Okay.
Okay, everything is clear. Perfect.
All right, we got one question.
Yeah, thank you all. It seems to be kind of a dichotomy between like enforcing regulations for like the industry to behave in a certain way, and kind of like pre-profit motive, or rather like kind of trying to build systems without taking account of the profit motive as an axiom, versus like diverting, like using like profit incentives and the profit motive maybe to like build, I don't know, like mechanisms, protocols to like divert that energy in different ways. And I think maybe was kind of like two sides of like what you were both talking about. I wonder if like, I don't know, anyone on the panel has like any more insight into that dichotomy, or maybe people who haven't like spoken explicitly about that. From
the tech aspect, we work with a blockchain called RChain, and he created one of the fastest blockchain in this proof of stake, set of proof of work. And this guy, he's one of the Microsoft builders. He's 65 years old, a brilliant mathematician. And he's a totally decentralized, he's a DAO. And for me, it's difficult to deal with DAOs because every decision has to be the community decision. And they're doing an amazing work because they have a very good community in South Asia, in South America, United States, and Europe. And I see for the first time that it's not internet that connect people to social media, it's Web3 connecting people to create something. So they created this blockchain system, and I really believe in Europe, the only one that it's not very polluting, it's Tezos, but it's not the same of our chain. And they have hard time to communicate or to make it marketing. So I see a lot of young people coming out of Ethereum and going to Solanas and Polygon now because it's hype. I don't think there is a hype in the business. There's the right way to do. So the right way to do is the fastest way, and that you consume less energy. So this is a little bit my point of when you talk about the profit. I see a lot of people doing the hype and looking for profit. When I really think, and I strongly believe this business is a global business because it's being built by huge communities. And our chain, I think, is a very good example for how I see the future should be. I don't want to imply them to use that, but I just want the young people to look into the very green and good solutions for the planet instead of polluting.
So do you think it's possible to align like the kind of the innate profit motives of these systems with regenerative practices, or is there still like kind of a big need for like some sort of like rule set of practices like from the ground up?
Well, human beings evolve very slowly, you know, so people have to take what they have in the past into protecting the future. So I think we're experimenting a lot, and I think it's just the beginning. So there will be a lot of people who will come with a very good, great solutions that we can keep doing profit in a different way and divide this. And we're still looking and working and trying to find these people and just back up these companies. I think it would come. It's just a matter of time.
Can I add? So I think there's two ways in which this can be done. And one is that, well, if you do make profit, you should give a portion of those profits to some good cause. But that's kind of like, that's the same problem of like, well, you can pollute as much as you want, but you just need to buy carbon credits so that you feel good with your conscience, but you're still polluting, right? I think there is another way in which we can play the profit game, not by taxing on profits, and then if you tax profit, then well, you motivate people to create even more profit because they still want the money, as opposed to actually really redesigning the incentive systems, right? And like, what is it that will make you profitable? And so it's not about if you are profitable, whatever ways we want you to get some money to the environment or to social cause, but it's actually the only way you can be profitable is by actually doing those things, right? And so the Impact NFT project, or those things is actually like, how do you create a system by which a profit maximizing entity is all of a sudden, because of the payoff structure, is incentivized to do specific type of activities and actions, because that is actually what will maximize the profits, and those actions are inherently connected with the KPI, the impact that those actions have. And so if I actually do things that are promoting a particular natural resources, I am much more likely to make profit than if I don't. Right? And so how do you construct and how do you embed those specific incentive systems into tokens, into metaverse platforms, so that we can still play the profit game, but the rule of the game are such that the only way you win is by also contributing to the particular cause.
All right, big round of applause for our panel. Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
very
you
much.
guys coming out here.